The foundation, rivers and trade, 1500s, 1950s. For centuries, the people of the Niger Delta lived by the water. Their history was woven into the creeks, the mangrove forests, and the abundance of the sea. The story of the people of Niger Delta. The people of the Niger Delta lived by the water. Their history was woven into the creeks, the mangrove forests, and the abundance of the sea. Before we continue the history, like, share, and drop comments. This delta region, home to the Ijaw, Ikwere, Eche, and others, boasted unique biodiversity. The original economy was built on fishing, farming, and river trade. They traded essential commodities and, crucially, palm oil. This oil rivers region attracted European powers long before the black gold beneath their feet was known. The British annexed the area, establishing the Oil Rivers Protectorate in 1885, cementing the region as the primary gateway for colonial commercial interests. As Nigeria moved toward independence, the minority groups of the Delta feared they would be marginalized by the larger ethnic groups inland in the eastern region. They repeatedly petitioned the colonial authorities for a separate political entity, leading to the Willings Commission in 1958, which recognized their fears, though no separate state was created yet. Everything changed in 1956. At Oloibiri, in present-day Bayelsa, Shell BP struck oil. The era of enormous wealth and profound conflict had begun. Following independence in 1960, the legal framework, notably the Petroleum Act, vested ownership and control of all mineral resources in the federal government. The wealth flowed out, but the promised development and infrastructure for the Delta communities never materialized, creating massive resentment and a feeling of betrayal. In 1966, the first radical challenge occurred. Isaac Adaka-Boro, frustrated by the lack of local control, led an armed group to declare the short-lived Delta People's Republic. Boro's fight was quickly suppressed, but his call for resource control echoed across the Delta. He became a martyr for the principle of local ownership. In 1967, Rivers State was created, one of the original 12 states, strategically aimed at securing the allegiance of the Delta minorities during the impending Civil War. By the 1980s and 90s, the damage was irreversible. Tens of thousands of barrels of crude were spilled annually from poor infrastructure and negligence, polluting the environment. The resulting environmental devastation, ruined farmland, dead creeks, and perpetual gas flaring wiped out traditional livelihoods like fishing and farming. This fueled the powerful nonviolent movement, the movement for the survival of the Ogoni people, Mos-Op, centered in Rivers State. Their leader, the revered writer and activist Ken Saro-Wiwa, mobilized the Ogoni people against environmental ruin by the government and multinational oil companies, especially Shell. The military government under General Sani Abacha viewed this protest as an economic threat. In a move of brutal repression, Saro-Wiwa and 8 other Ogoni activists were arrested. In 1995, after a widely condemned trial, the 9 were executed. This act triggered international sanctions and suspension from the Commonwealth. The execution taught a generation that non-violence had failed. The new millennium saw the emergence of heavily armed groups, notably MENDA, Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta. MEND launched a systematic economic war involving pipeline vandalism, attacks on oil installations, and the kidnapping of expatriate oil workers for ransom. Their actions were explicitly aimed at disrupting the flow of oil until the Delta people gained greater control over the resources extracted from their land. The militancy was highly effective. At its peak, it reduced Nigeria's oil production by up to 1 million barrels per day, costing the national economy billions. In 2009, the federal government, recognizing the severe economic damage, announced the Presidential Amnesty Program, PAP, as a deal for peace. Thousands of fighters surrendered their weapons in exchange for a monthly stipend, education, and vocational training. This brought a fragile end to the large-scale armed conflict. However, the amnesty program was a pacification effort that addressed the symptoms, the fighters, but not the root causes: poverty, lack of infrastructure, and resource injustice. The vacuum left by the militants was filled by highly organized criminal activity, primarily the rampant practice of illegal refining, or bunkering, stealing crude oil through pipeline tapping. This illegal refining has resulted in the most acute environmental destruction in recent years. The improper burning of petroleum products has caused chronic air pollution known locally as Soot. River State's capital, Port Harcourt, and surrounding areas are often covered in this toxic black soot, impacting public health and making air quality a major environmental concern. Today, the struggle continues through political demands for greater fiscal federalism and resource control, as well as the ongoing difficult work of environmental remediation in places like Ogoniland. The history of River State is a profound cautionary tale of resource wealth and human cost. The fight for true development, security, and justice for the Delta people endures.